Drew, it's good to talk to you. I wanted to start with the Women's World Cup, and then we'll get to other things because I am pretty fascinated by this. When you have a team like the U.S. women, who are a favorite, plus 250, everybody expects them in our realm to win, right? Because we get super myopic. Of course, we're America. We got to win. Is this gap still there for the women in the U.S. World Cup, or excuse me, in the World Cup coming up?
Yeah, this is a tough handicap. I'm pretty heavily invested in USA. I like plus 250 as a price. If you can find that, I think that's fair. And most of my reasoning here is is kind of divorced from, sort of the state of the team, which is obviously, not in super sharp form coming into this World Cup. The most notable recent international competition of consequence was the Olympics, and the Team USA was woefully underperforming at the Olympics in Tokyo back in 2021. And in 2 short years, a lot of the stars have gotten 2 years older. And now they have a little bit of a challenge on their hands to reintegrate, kind of integrate a young up and coming group with potential, try to figure out how to balance the playing time for those players with the kind of the existing incumbent championship class. Now, as an NBA guy, JVT, tell me where you've heard this before. Is this sound an awful lot like the Golden State Warriors and what they tried to do last year that wildly notably failed? It does to me. And so there is a potential for this to go sideways, for them to never kind of, play as good as the pieces that are on the field. But the reason I think plus 250 is pretty significant value is they're in Group E. Group E is tough. It's not like impossible, but I think they win Group E pretty comfortably. And that puts them in a section of the knockout draw that is pretty imbalanced. So the other kind of realistic teams that have championship pedigree that are in this World Cup are, in no particular order, Australia, France, England, and Germany. If all 4 of those teams win their respective groups, which they are, pretty heavily favored to do, they will all end up on the bottom half of the knockout draw, while Team USA will be in the top half. So realistically, of the top 5 teams with of the top 5 teams that I think have a realistic chance to win this title, USA is only going to have to play one of them in the knockout rounds. As you have the odds up now, you'll notice I did not mention Spain. Spain is plus 450. That would be the toughest team the USA would have to play on their way to the final if Spain even gets there. But that team is going through some pretty chaotic stuff right now. A mutiny against the coach. The coach actually just wins that mutiny out, and those players are playing for him still. Already causing controversy in New Zealand, offending some of the local folks and some of the indigenous folks. So it's going to be an interesting couple weeks here for Spain. But Team USA, I think, gets through to the final very cleanly, and at that point is only going to have to play one of the other contenders, and those contenders are going to have to go through a pretty difficult path to get there. So this feels a lot like Team USA is, I don't know, say the Denver Nuggets, and they're going to, just kind of coast in the West. Meanwhile, the East is a knockdown, drag out blood brawl between, equal strength teams, and whoever emerges is going to get dispatched. That's kind of the way I look at this, because it's going to be an imbalanced knockout draw assuming Team USA wins Group E. And at that point, if you have 5-6 matches under your belt before you get to the final, you've worked out some of the kinks in terms of who's getting playing time and what are the roles and responsibilities, who are the team leaders you're counting on, who is scoring goals. That's kind of the key question for Team USA. We don't really know who is going to be tasked with kind of the finishing responsibilities. But they have enough talent, surely, most talented team in the world by margin. And I believe in this manager to figure it out along the way, because realistically for them, the World Cup starts in the final.
Anything with a prop market like this, Women's World Cup top goal scorer, would you have a read on how this goes in terms of how it plays out for scoring?
I like Sam Kerr here. Sam Kerr plus 750 is a fun one. She's the most talented goal scorer in this tournament. And realistically, I have a sneaking suspicion that Australia is going to come through these European teams and be Team USA's opponent in the final. This tournament is taking place in Oceania. So some of the matches are going to be in Australia, some in New Zealand. I think Team USA, for the most part, is playing in New Zealand until we get into the knockout stages. But Sam Kerr is pretty outstanding, offensive dynamite. And she's going to have a relatively long run here because I believe Australia wins their group. I don't know if it's going to be a runaway win for their group, but I think they win their group and they have the home field advantage here. And just in general, like we've seen a lot of examples of, the world going to an international stage and it being, in this part of the, in this time zone. And it takes teams quite a long time to really get comfortable playing there, getting to their peak performance, particularly if they're coming from Europe. So I think the European teams are on a little bit of not upset alert necessarily, but just, potential for some underperformance from, the likes of particularly the Englands of the world who are dealing with a ton of kind of meaningful injuries. We've seen their price drift pretty aggressively in this market over the past month, and I think that's fair because they really are not the same strength team that won women's Euro last time it was contested. So it's going to be I think USA over Australia in the final, and USA's goal distribution is going to be pretty diffuse. There's a lot of women who are going to score for Team USA, whereas Australia, it's going to be consolidated all on Sam Kerr's shoulders. She could ultimately win Best Player of the tournament. I think plus 750 for Golden Boot is a fair shout as well.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.